Right, Honorable Speaker, honorable members, thank you very much for this opportunity. I am Jones A-Viglo, the Executive Director of Youth Impact Parliament and President of Executive Director of Youth Impact Movement and President of the Senate of Y-Viglo. Honorable Speaker, I have less than 10 minutes to do this presentation because from here we are moving to debate. Honorable Speaker, Parliamentary Proceedings. This orientation is to reorient the existing members and orient the new members. Today, we have in our midst a lot of new faces, from the left to the middle, to the right, and to the back, are a lot of new faces. First time observing proceedings of Parliament and our parliamentary proceedings. So this is to basically orient you on what we do and what happens in Parliament. Madam Speaker, when we say Parliament, Parliament is just a terminology. The term Parliament is just a terminology. The actual word is called Legislature. And what is a legislature? It is a body consisting of elected representatives from demarcated territories called constituencies, who come together as a chamber to make laws, deliberate, and serve as an oversight body on other arms of government, most especially the executive. That is a legislature. Legislatures come in different forms. We have unicameral legislatures, we have bicameral legislatures, we have tricameral legislatures. What is a unicameral legislature? It is a legislature with one chamber. A very good example is Ghana's legislature. We only have one chamber called Parliament, led by a Speaker of Parliament with a total number of 276 members of Parliament. When we talk about the bicameral legislature, it means that legislature has two chambers, an upper chamber and a lower chamber. A very good example is the National Assembly of Nigeria. It consists of the Senate, made up of 109 senators, with a president elected from among the senators, and the lower chamber called the House of Representatives, with representatives, 360 representatives, with a Speaker of the House elected from among the representatives. When you go to Kenya, they have the Parliament of Kenya, with the upper house called the Senate of Kenya, with an ex-official who is not a senator, elected as the Speaker of the Senate. And they are made up of 47 senators and about 16 nominated senators. Then when you go to their lower chamber, it's called the National Assembly of Kenya, with an ex-official elected as the Speaker of the National Assembly, with a total number of around 334 members of Parliament. When you go to South Africa, we have the Parliament of South Africa, made up of the upper chamber, which is the National Council of Provinces, with delegates from provincial legislatures, and a member of them elected as the chairman of the National Council of Provinces. And their lower chamber is called the National Assembly, with over 400 members of Parliament, with a Speaker and a Deputy Speaker elected from among them. Those are examples of bicameral legislatures. We also have one called the tricameral legislatures, made up of three chambers, an upper chamber, a middle chamber, and a lower chamber. But unfortunately, we don't have any existing example in the world. Why? Because the process becomes too long. Now let's go to the function of Parliament. I stated that Parliament is a law-making body, or legislature is a law-making body. I stated that Parliament is a term, right? We have different terminologies. House of Lords, House of Councillors, House of Commons, Senate, House of Representatives, Duet, National Diet. You see, he said we have legislative chamber, different terms. It depends on the term the Constitution adopts for its legislature. In youth parliament, we have the Senate and the Parliament. We have our Senate consisting of 64 senators and a president who is an ex officio. And our Parliament consisting of 276 youth MPs and a speaker elected outside Parliament. Now, Parliament is a law-making body. What is its law-making functionality? You see, the entire concept of Parliament is with this analogy. Ghana is made up of what? Over 35 million Ghanaians. We cannot have all the 35 million gathered at one place to take a decision. Then we can never take any decision. That is why we have designated 276 from what? Constituencies that we elect to represent us and take decisions for us. That is it. Because we all cannot gather to make a decision. That is why they are elected to do the job for us. What is the law-making functionality of Parliament? That is when, first of all, what is a law? A law are rules and regulations that are adopted to guide our ways and how society is governed. Ghana has a supreme law called the Constitution of Ghana. That is the 1992 Constitution, which is our fourth Republican Constitution. And after it is called what? Acts of Parliament, which is a secondary law to complement the Constitution. Because as of the time the Constitution was drafted, not all matters could have been captured to guide the country. So far, the Parliament of Ghana has passed over 1,000 acts, and there's first come as bills. After that is something we call what? Common laws. Common laws are laws not written in any document. These are laws mostly practiced in our society, in our chieftaincy institutions. And then the next one are called what? Legislations or legislative instruments. We have the constitutional instrument, we have a legislative instrument, we have the executive instrument. Executive instruments are from the president and only parliamentary approval. Legislative instruments are what? They are not bylaws, but they are, should I say, a policy passed by parliament, passed by a body captured by what? The constitution. For instance, the Electoral Commission, they bring what? That's a constitutional instrument, right? Sorry, legislative instrument is rather from a body that has been birthed by an act of parliament. So, for instance, if the National Youth Authority wants a legislative instrument, they have been passed by an act of parliament. So, when they bring something for parliament to consider, it comes as a legislative instrument. Constitutional instruments are the ones passed by bodies enacted by the Constitution, like the Electoral Commission, CI. So, before every election, they have to bring a CI for parliament to pass. And all these things are done by parliamentary procedure. What is the legislative functionality of parliament? That is where we come deliberating. That is where we come and we deliberate. We speak. You can't be in parliament and you don't speak. Because if you fail to speak, you are failing to what? Speak for your people. First of all, we are there to represent our people. So if you fail to speak, you are failing to what? Speak for your people. That is the reason why we are saying that Parliament should break at least 2 times, so that you come home and listen to your people and you can have something to say for them. So the deliberative function of Parliament is to enable members of Parliament to speak for their people. So anytime they are speaking in Parliament, we believe they are speaking for their constituents. Now, apart from that, the job is about speaking. What we see in plenary, in the chamber of Parliament, is just the surface of it. The major part of the job is done in committee works. Parliament has over 40 committees. And members of parliament are split into committees to carry out specific functions attached to either departments of the state or legislative functionality. For instance, we have the Standing Orders Committee, Committee on Selection, the Committee on Youth and Sports, Committee on Intelligence. The MPs are broken down per their specialty to carry out some functions for parliament, and the final job or the final decision is taken in parliament. The third function is what? Financial oversight, or let me just say oversight. The president per Article 67 is directed by the Constitution to present a message on the state of the nations once or at the start of each session of parliament and prior to the dissolution of parliament. It is for the president to account on the state of our nation. That is why President Mahama by February goes to parliament to present the state of our nation. And he speaks on basically everything happening. Parliament debates this and sends their debates to him for him to consider and then refine his thoughts. Apart from that, the Constitution empowers the president to, through a minister, present a budget, the financial policy and budget estimates to Parliament for consideration. And Parliament has to pass it before the president can spend. So what the finance minister presents is just called what? The budget statement. After he's done, he adds the estimates of every department. When I say department, I mean the ministries and the state agencies. They now come to each of the committees. Mr. Speaker refers them to committees. But before then, the statement is debated and passed and approved, right? Then after that, the estimates are now sent to each of the committees as appropriation bills. These appropriation bills are budget estimates containing the expenditure to be made in an incoming year. And Parliament goes through committee by committee. And after they have gone through and done corrections, they bring it to the House for it to be passed under certificate of urgency. That is one of the things that Parliament is embodied to do per the Constitution under certificate of urgency. That is why those appropriation bills are done that day. When the committee presents it, then that day they are passed. And after they are passed and all the appropriation bills are passed, the president, guided by these bills and the budget statement, can now spend our money. Time is passed.
Yes, please.
I'll conclude soon. Are you following? Parliament is a very beautiful thing. You see, when you see your members of parliament coming to the house saying they'll build this, they'll build that, I want to tell you, they don't have any budget. They don't have any budget for it in the sense that for the appropriation bills, the budget for parliament is for the running of parliament. There is no component given to the MP to spend for the constituency. The only allocation made is from the district assembly's common fund, where a percentage is directed to the MP for philanthropic works. And even that one is done in conjunction with the DC. For development, it is the responsibility of the executive to develop. Members of parliament can only serve as agents or lobbyists for development. It is their job to legislate, and I wouldn't say not to develop, but they can be part of that cycle. It is totally emphatically wrong to hold members of parliament accountable for development. Ask me why. Because you have elected a president to develop your country. He appoints a set of ministers to lead regions and departments, ministries. And in addition, he appoints local government heads called DCs, who are budgeted or who gets money from ITF, internally generated fund. And in addition, the central government gives them grants, only for the DC. Your member of parliament has no budget for development. So why do you go around holding the member of parliament? That is why I'm teaching you that. I'm teaching you these things. For you to know that it is the job of the member of parliament to be in parliament. I know when they come to campaign, they say, vote for me and I'll let my president do this. Vote for me and I'll let my president do that. But it is not exactly his job to develop. So stop pressuring your members of parliament to develop. Be asking them, how have they influenced national policy? How have they influenced us? Bills in Parliament.
Honorable Joe,
Okay,
kindly conclude.
so that is my little presentation on what parliamentary proceedings. It is a brief thing. When you sit in youth impact parliament for about a year, oh my God, delivery, eloquence, speaking, you will flow like everything. You would have learned a lot before your term ends. So I call on you to be part of this parliament. Share the forms. Share the link, oh, share the link. We have opened nominations for the 6th Parliament. On the 8th of August, we will be swearing in the new Parliament. Join us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Joe A-Viglo, for the short